Hello, this is the Linux Gamer, and today I have this rocket on the launch pad. It looks kind of like a Delta IV Heavy, but you should be able to tell right away it isn't. I mean, I've made a video of a Delta IV Ultra Heavy too, in fact. This is an Atlas V Phase 2 Super Heavy. So what was the Atlas V Phase 2? The Atlas V Phase 2 was a proposal that was first made when ULA was founded by the merger of Lockheed and Boeing to use the 5-meter sized Delta IV tanks for the Atlas, except obviously with Kerbal locks instead of Hydra locks, and use two RD-180 engines. And while there was a heavy lift vehicle variation of this, for reference, here's an Atlas regular scale I built here. These are obviously subscale because Kerbal Space Program, so this is using 1.875 meter tanks, and that's using 2.5, but yeah. This is an Atlas 421, so 4 meter fairing, except it's not actually 4 meters. 2 solid rocket boosters and 1 second stage engine. Anyway, we're just going to launch this one because I have a reasonable payload that I can get to it. Basically, the payload is the partially full second stage in a space probe for interplanetary travel, so we'll just get this to orbit and see how much Delta V we have when we get there. A little tricky to fly because the boosters are asymmetric. This is to mimic the real Atlas 421s. Let me try and get a good view. The boosters are not mounted exactly opposite each other. One of them is slightly offset. This is because on the real Atlas V, there are lots of pipes and electrical cables and stuff that they can't exactly mount SRVs on. Anyway, on the topic of the engines I'm using are actually the LR87 Kerbal version. Those were used on the Titan rockets, such as the Titan II GLV for Gemini. They're actually hypergolic, not Keralox, but they're the closest I could get in appearance and reasonable size. Those boosters are shrimp boosters with a couple of empty Mark 0 fuselages to kind of look the part. Okay, I don't want to go too shallow on this ascent because the Cheetah is already a pretty low thrust-to-weight ratio engine, and I actually set the thrust limiter even lower because it was too powerful on one of my test flights. So yeah, don't want to go too shallow. Anyway, here we go. I chose the Cheetah engine because it's a low thrust and very efficient engine, kind of like the real RL-10. In real life, it's also a hypergolic, but for some reason all the hypergolic engines, all the KSP engines derived from hypergolic engines, like the Wolfhound and the Cheetah, are absurdly efficient. It's kind of strange. I mean, I think it's to incentivize use of making history engines, which kind of don't like, since I don't think you should have to pay $15 to get the most efficient engines in the game, but just my opinion, I guess. Lower the fairing. And yeah, here we have a pretty small satellite. It's very basic, Probodobodyne Hex. It actually has its own small maneuvering system. It's got an antenna, some solar panels. So yeah, it's a very basic satellite, and there will be a reasonable amount of extra Delta V in this discount Centaur upper stage to send it on a trajectory to another planet. This could probably do a direct transfer to Joule. Not 100% sure. Okay, we're just going to do the standard Kerbal apoapsis coast because, yeah, Kerbin's a lot smaller, so orbital velocities are smaller, atmosphere is lower, so it makes sense in Kerbal Space Program, not so much real life, to, once you have an apogee high in space, to just coast to it and complete your burn there, compared to how much sense that would actually make in reality. But this isn't reality, even though I'm trying to make this kind of realistic. Hopefully I didn't warp too far. Okay, so this won't even have enough for a direct Joule transfer just on the Centaur. I could use the little maneuvering system to get a direct Joule transfer, and then of course I could do a capture at Joule with Tylo for like no delta V cost, but yeah, point is this is only got like 100, or I'm just going to predict about 1,700, 1,800 or so meters per second of delta V in LKO, which not enough to do a direct transfer to Joule, Moho, or Elu, or maybe even not enough for Dre's. Not sure though. Yeah, 1,800 meters per second, which is a reasonable amount, but it's not the greatest. So now let's go and switch to the Atlas Phase 2 Super Heavy Lift Vehicle. Okay, here we are on the pad with the Atlas 5 SHLV Phase 2 type thing. Anyway, this has got it's got a lot of noise and a lot of thrust, but it's got 2 of my fake RD-180s on each tank for the first stage and boosters. The core stage, I actually, because presumably there wouldn't be fuel crossfeed, I set some thrust limiters on. Anyway, kind of what I'm trying to achieve here is hucking a Centaur upper stage even further along its path to orbit with a heavier payload that could potentially even do a direct Joule transfer. We'll have to see, but yeah, that's kind of the goal of this, is to carry a much heavier payload with its Centaur further downrange. Or not, yeah, downrange, I guess. I'm trying not to be too aggressive with this gravity turn, because fairings at the top of rockets, especially ones without fins, can cause some weird flipping like that. Anyway, there go the boosters, and okay, totally how NASA would have done it, I'm sure. Anyway, core is yeah, I don't think the RD-108, well, I'm pretty sure that can't reignite. Actually, I know that that one can't reignite since they use matches to light it, more or less, but no, I don't think the RD-180 can actually reignite, but whatever, this is KSP. Anyway, so yeah, we have our Centaur with its heavier payload. This is kind of my Cassini-Huygens replica that I made real fast. I also have a whole camera on it from the Wholcam VDS mod, just to get some pretty pictures and junk, even though I'm probably not actually going to use it. I tried to use the Wholcams during the launch, but they don't really work. I'm probably doing something wrong, but yeah, that's kind of why I didn't use the Wholcam during launch. And then, I guess on the topic of the RD-180, American engines, dual-chamber engines, there was a plan by Aerojet Rocketdyne to make this thing called the AR-1 that would basically be an American version of the RD-180, so they wouldn't have to keep buying Russian engines for a rocket that launches a lot of spy satellites, basically. It would be similar to the RD-180, a closed-cycle, oxygen-rich Kerbal gas generator engine, so really high efficiency, would be for sea level use. So that was kind of the plan for the not RD-180, AR-1. That would be based off the RD-180. Anyway, now that I have rambled on way too much, let's light our second stage. And you will note it doesn't have nearly as much delta V in this stage as the last one had, because, well, it's carrying a much, much heavier payload, and, I mean, this one won't be able to do a direct Joule injection either. In fact, it'll have less delta V in LKO, because I managed to do that massive flip out during ascent, but point is, if you have the skill to not flip it during ascent, maybe I'll put the craft file minus, of course, the cameras, because you might not have whole cam. I'll put the craft file in the description anyway. You might want to add some fins, if you don't mind, like ruining the historic, or alt-historic, I guess, aesthetic, I can speak, of the rocket, but yeah. I personally like to keep it somewhat accurate to what it could have been, or would have been, or at least what it would have looked like, and kind of how it would have flown. Ignore the massive flip out during launch. I just can't fly. Anyway, here we are in orbit. Like I said, less actual Delta V in orbit, heavier payload, flip out during launch, etc. But anyway, like I said, if there are any more talented pilots in the description, feel free to play with this. But thanks for watching. Goodbye. Why did I spin that?